Actions speak louder than words. What we need to deal with climate change is concrete action rather than empty words. A very pleasant morning to one and all present here. I am Ayushi Singh, an Executive Council member of Kartavya, the Civil Services Society, Kirodimal College, University of Delhi. I, along with my co-host Mohammad Soeb, feel extremely gratified to have this opportunity to welcome you all to this another event of our society named MAUSAM 3.0, the Climate Talks. Our society Kartavya is an initiative of Kirodimal College, which endeavors to provide a collaborative learning ambience to all the learners, which is emblematic of our principle, Esprit Corps. MAUSAM, the Climate Talks, is an annual event of our society where we discuss and analyze the gravest problems of climate change. This discussion aims at providing a holistic and solution-oriented outlook. And we at Kartavya feel extremely elated to host the third edition of MAUSAM. And on this occasion, we have with us our guest speaker of the day, Mr. Upendra Tripathy, retired IAS officer. Welcome, sir, and thank you for making your presence today. Now, I'd like to invite my co-host, Mohammad Soeb, to introduce our guest to the audience. Over to you, Soeb.
नमस्कार दोस्तों, मैं हूं मोहम्मद शोएब और कर्तव्य द्वारा आयोजित इस सेशन को आगे बढ़ाते हुए मैं हमारे आज के मुख्य अतिथि और वक्ता श्री उपेंद्र त्रिपाठी जी का स्वागत करना चाहूंगा। इससे पहले कि हम हमारे मुख्य अतिथि जी को इस सेशन को संबोधित करने के लिए बुलाएं, उससे पहले मैं आप सभी से उनका परिचय करवाना चाहूंगा। श्री उपेंद्र त्रिपाठी जी रिटायर्ड IAS ऑफिसर और इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस के पहले डायरेक्टर जनरल हैं। इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस दुनिया भर के 121 देशों का गठबंधन है जो कि सोलर पावर यूटिलाइजेशन, सस्टेनेबल एनर्जी और कोऑपरेशन पर काम करता है। सर ने जवाहरलाल नेहरू से पॉलिटिकल साइंस में MA और कार्लेटन यूनिवर्सिटी कनाडा से पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में MA की डिग्री हासिल की हुई है। इन्हें अनेक पुरस्कारों से सम्मानित किया गया है, जिनमें प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स अवार्ड फॉर एक्सेलेंस इन पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, सिटीजन एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी अवार्ड, इंटरनेशनल गोल्ड स्टार मिलेनियम अवार्ड जैसे प्रतिष्ठित पुरस्कार सम्मिलित हैं। सर के पास भारतीय प्रशासनिक सेवा में 40 वर्षों का अनुभव है, जो कि असिस्टेंट कमिश्नर से शुरू होकर भारत सरकार के अनेक मंत्रालयों में अलग अलग सचिव होने तक रहा है। अब मैं श्री उपेंद्र त्रिपाठी जी से आग्रह करूंगा कि वो इस सेशन को संबोधित कर हमारा ज्ञानवर्धन करें। ओवर टू यू सर।
Thank you, and I start with Rasmi, who actually contacted me and has been in touch with, and thank you, Mac and Arun, for that beautiful introduction from that you made. I love speaking extempore, but Kartavya, as you know, is meant for civil service, so you always need some materials. And but I must tell you, as we grew up in, from JNU, where I studied up to 79. In 80, I joined IAS, and from my class, there are 5 IAS officers. And from JNU in that year, in 1980, we were 33. In Missouri National Academy, we used to call it a mini, academy sort of thing. And in our time, I don't think we dealt with this climate, global warming and all that. 70s, late 70s, I don't think this was an issue. I don't remember my professors talking to me or our societies in JNU having anything talking about, a lot of global warming. It was not in the agenda. In 1992, when I went to Carleton University, I did write a paper on global warming. I was essentially writing the paper to talk about what is going to be the impact of global warming for Canada. I was in Canada, so I was focused in Canada. And from my limited research, I found out that if global warming takes place, more areas in Canada will open up for agriculture. And on the downside, of course, we were told that many hidden viruses and bacteria may come out, which are actually in a state of frozen thing. We did slightly talk about the Antarctica issue and the Arctic issues, but it was not much in the agenda. But what is very important in early 90s, and I'm talking about 92 to 96 when I was in Canada as a student, ozone was a big issue. In fact, 87, the Montreal Protocol had come. India had not yet signed. India would sign in 92, and India, the big debate was going on whether India should sign, where is the finance, where is the technology. And the topic was so interesting that I decided, after completing my master's there, not to come back and join the government here, but to register for a PhD program. And there I registered for a PhD program, and it was on chlorofluoro management in India, the ozone sector. How it is going to affect the industry, what are the types of technologies that we require, and what is the type of money that we need to be compliant with the Montreal Protocol. And Montreal Protocol, as you know, was the first, and I would say very successful agreement, the common agreement between countries. And this was essentially how to plug the ozone holes, the stratospheric ozone. Early 90s, we were not very sure that this is going to succeed. It was the beginning of the protocol. Countries after countries were joining. India was waiting for China to join, and China joined, and India then joined. But I do remember, as a part of my research, I came back to India and went to CEC, the Center for Environment and Science, and in the library there was a paper, Down to Earth. So I did a lot of research to find out, how India was addressing the ozone, the Montreal Protocol issues. And I found that three things were very unique to India. A, the government was really focused and supporting, provided they got enough finance and enough technology. And number two, they involved the private sector very well. And that was the strength. And of course, number three, the civil societies like, Center for Environment, the very fact they did a lot of research, they wrote articles. And that is the type of movement that came. But as I told you, we're not very sure that the ozone protocol, the Montreal Protocol, is going to be one of the successful examples that it has been now. And in hindsight, the other day I took back my literature. I was looking at the estimate of how much money India will need to be Montreal Protocol compliant was way ahead of what money actually needed. And the biggest worry, how we are going to get technologies, the market, solved it to a great extent. The point I'm trying to say that global warming per se was not a challenge in early 90s, or as much as known as was the Montreal Protocol issue, the ozone issue. So today, it is no more a debate. We are not asking about causes and what extents and duties. Even in the schools, we are talking about global warming. I happen to had a I happen to be the working president of an organization called Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan in Odisha. We have 314 schools, English medium schools in very difficult, inaccessible places in Odisha. It's one school per block. It is CBSE medium, and it is English medium. So there's a lot of stage for the students to get into this entrance exam to join the other schools, which is just a network of 314 schools in the whole big province of Odisha. And but when I go to the schools, I look at the art teachers, the students, the type of paintings they do and put on the wall journal. You'll be surprised to see that the awareness is so high that many students even draw about global warming. As a burning earth, it is a carbon infiltrated earth. The point is, it has gone down to our psyche, to the common consciousness that global warming is a big problem and it needs to be tackled. The other day, in fact, in the mail, I came across a small video about a girl who worked with her father and developed an app where each individual can monitor as to how he or she can reduce the carbon footprint at an individual level. And 7 billion people, or more than 7 billion people on Earth, and 7 billion kilograms of CO2 footprint. That itself is a big contribution. And it is very interesting because it has come to a very young girl who are infusing technology and the challenge that we have of global warming and how things can be done at the individual level, how you can take a cycle ride in a week, how you can reduce use of power, how you can improve energy efficiency. The point is now it has really the issue has come up. Everybody knows that there is a challenge, and very simple questions you get. Is it global warming happening for the first time? Well, no. If you look at the history of the globe, we have got global warming periodically, and but right now what is happening is it is happening. The three dimensions are different between the historical ones which we had with and now we have. One is happening is the scale. The scale of warming is very high, and the impacts you can see in terms of. I'm not going to repeat those common words. More storms, more cyclones, more tsunamis, and people say more lightnings in the Antarctica and Arctic region, where lightnings were very few, and forest fires, which are very rare in Arctic region, now plenty. So the linkage with sort of deforestation, with the industrialization, with the forces that we have released. So those three the scale is different now. And the skills, the type of industries that we come up with, the energy intensity, the use of fossil fuels, you take it out of the earth and use it and produce CO2. So those skills, the technologies, and the speed at which it's happening. So all these three things, if you look at the present phase, the change is coming pretty fast. And the impacts are quite visible. I remember, when I was heading the International Solar Alliance, I attended a UN webinar, seminar actually. Those days there was no COVID. It was 2019. And in the UN headquarters, there was a small workshop about the impact of global warming and what we should do. Actually, it was what small island states should do. And this honorable minister from Fiji, who gave a concluding remarks, it was a tremendous speech. He said, gentlemen, many people make a living out of global warming. You do research, you do write, and many people, would politicize the issue of global warming. But for us, and that is what the honorable Fijian minister told, it is reality of life. Every morning when we get up, or every evening when we see the sunset, a little bit of the island has gone down, which means the little bit of sea level have come up. And you have these island, states. And so the typical thing is you see that the type of industrialization that we are leading, or the post-industrial the civilization that we are leading, the type of consumerism that we have got, the type of energy usage that we make, this is all giving rise to things that the earth can. What does it mean when I say the earth cannot? And balance system, the cosmic forces, the earth, the solar system, and within earth, the seasons. It's a magical combination of things, and there is a very much of a very delicate balance between the things, between life and non-life, or delicate balance between nature and the way we live. And now, if you link the revolutions that we carried out in the process of evolution, the discovery of fire. The discovery of fire was a very important matter of evolution, because if you look at the anatomical structure of the human brain, they say there are a sort of quantum jump. When fire came and we started cooking food, and before eating, it became very energy efficient, because by chewing the raw food, you waste a lot of calories. So by cooking, you save that, and that contributed to the growth of human brain. And the second major revolution came when we got agriculture, because before that, food was not assured. With agriculture, we got command over food supply. So, but the impact of agriculture on Earth, the impact of fire on Earth, and then of course we rolled into the industrial age when steam engine came in, there is but it is not so much about how the brain is going to evolve in future, but the impact on Earth is very clear. Impact is clear because these are all scientific things. The ppm of carbon is going up, the methane content is going up, and nitrous and sulfur contents are going up. Chlorofluorocarbons content are going up. They are all measurable. Now, we're saying the causes. Causes is very simple. If you think of a water tank, some water, there's an inlet and there's an outlet. Water comes in and water goes out. The balance works. But now we have, reached a system where the inlet puts in not only a lot of water, but it's very polluted water, or air, you call it. So the balance, the delicate balance that I talked about between human civilization, between the earth, between the the universal system that we are talking about, is getting disturbed. And in turn, when you disturb the delicate balance, it has different implications. Now, what can be those implications? Now, we are talking about anything. I like that classical way of capturing the economics. You talk about land, labor, capital, and technology. So the global warming, it is not for civil service I'm talking about. Civil service, will suffice if you read something and write the limited number of words they ask you. But as a human being today, it is a much more serious topic. And to visualize this, we have to see how this distortion in terms of the delicate balance that we are talking about is affecting the land, how it is affecting labor, how it is affecting capital, and how it is affecting technology. There are different sides, but if you look at this, the Economics Times of the date on 19th January. I'm showing you there is a name of a company here, and I don't hesitate to show it. It was X and King. It is a company in Bhopal, in fact, sorry, Indore. And Indore is a, although it comes, I think, the best city in India, it is still a growing city. I happened to visit this office, 120 people. And, but I'm told it has made a big name. If you look at the history of its IPO, it has grown a lot. Now, essentially, why, and this is not the only company that is making a big name today. And this company is in a very familiar area called carbon trade. Now, essentially, carbon trade, it talks about, if somebody has excess carbon to sell, or somebody can buy carbon to meet its target, you can develop a global market. And now I'll give you the example, that was discussed. The scientists, there are UN bodies, there are UNFCCC, the Minister of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, Minister of New and Renewable Energy. So in India, you will find many actors, institutions, and ideas. They come together in this issue of global warming. So in this projection, they say that the dynamic balance that we are talking about, the atmosphere still can absorb around another 400 gigatons of carbon. If you want to keep the 1.5 degree global mean temperature below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now, what is the annual production or generation of carbon footprint today? It's around 40 gigatons. So by simple math, if you divide 400 by 40, another 10 years, the water tank, I gave the example, the inlet outlet is full. And you will be, and then the projection that if we exceed another 40 gigaton, which is the carbon budget of the whole globe that is left with, and beyond that, we will head towards 2.5 degree global mean temperature Celsius, 2.5 degrees Celsius. And there are different implications of this, in terms of, disturbing the monsoon pattern, impact on agriculture, impact on health, impact on Arctics. There are impact on tipping points. So, and this 400, gigaton I told, which means if you look at from an opportunity point of view, beyond 400 gigatons, if somebody can find ways to buy and sell carbon, that provides a big market. And today I think it has gone up to $7 or $8, are still rising per ton. And look at 40 100 tons into 100 gigatons. It essentially means 100 gigatons will be 100 into 13 billion dollars we're talking about. Now, the point I'm trying to drive home is that global warming is a serious issue. It is a serious challenge, and all countries, now are aware of that. And the annual event, what we call the Conference of Parties, the 26th COP was recently held in Goa, and the the subsequent, I think, next one is in Egypt. So they're all involved in this. And why do you take it so seriously? And before we come to this one, I just request you play that small video. And this indicates the state of mind of the civilization today. Could you put that small slide where the lady is talking about spraying reflective material in the atmosphere? Yeah.
Now let's talk about a crisis that's facing everyone on this planet, the climate crisis. We've been telling you how global warming is killing our planet. Our forests are burning, our towns are flooding, the marine animals are being boiled alive. But to most of us, none of this seems to matter, because as long as global warming is not affecting us directly, it remains a non-issue or a distant issue. We talk about global warming at forums and conferences. We write about it on Twitter. But we do very little to tackle it ourselves. Will this change if I told you that global warming is affecting our newborns, that global warming is affecting the health of fetuses? Look at what a new study has found. Global warming has links to premature birth. Scientists studied 200,000 births between 2007 and 2011. A quarter of these mothers were exposed to at least one very hot day while being pregnant. The risk of premature birth increased 15%. Another study has found that a mother's exposure to wildfires before conception can double the risk of birth defects. What causes wildfires? Global warming. So the only way to tackle the problem, and many other problems, is by stopping global warming. How do we do that? We all know that. By making changes to our day-to-day lives, by opting for public transport, reducing carbon emissions, switching to cleaner fuels, reducing deforestation, you know the drill. The idea is to edit our current lifestyle in order to reduce global warming. But there are some who believe that we could edit the composition of the atmosphere instead, reducing global warming by dimming the sun's rays and cooling the planet's surface. Can this be done? Yes, it can. Sometimes the sun's rays are dimmed naturally or because of a natural calamity. What happened in 1991 makes for a good example here. The Mount Pinatubo erupted in the Philippines. It sent up an umbrella-like cloud of rock, ash and smoke. The planet-cooling aerosols lingered in the air and they lowered the Earth's surface temperature for at least a year. The effect lasted for over a year, in fact. But trying to achieve this artificially can be disastrous. First things first, can it be done? Can we humans dim the sun's rays? Theoretically speaking, yes, we can. To dim the amount of sunlight that falls on Earth, we would need to inject reflective particles into the atmosphere. Not one or two, but in large quantities. It is called solar radiation modification, or SRM. It's something that's been hotly debated as a climate policy option. But should this policy option even be considered? That is the question. Experts say it's a big no. Because one, dimming the sun's rays could disrupt monsoons in South Asia and Western Africa, which means dimming the sun's rays could damage our rain-fed crops. It could hit food security, deprive millions of food, and force more people to go to go to bed hungry. Point number 2, dimming the sun's rays could also dry the Amazon. So 60 experts and scientists have written a letter. This is what they say. We call for an immediate political action from governments, the United Nations and other actors to prevent the normalization of solar geoengineering as a climate policy option. Come to think of it, how is dimming the sun even a solution? The only way to tackle global warming is by addressing the root cause of the problem, not covering the problem with another layer of reflective particles. Dimming the sun's rays is a quick fix. And we should be done with tampering the earth. We've cut forests, put enormous pressure on the planet by expanding agricultural land, by increasing livestock farming, by filling lakes, building houses and factories on them. We've cut mangroves, built artificial islands, polluted rivers, polluted the land, the air. We've burnt fossil fuels, coal, oil, gas. And now all of this is coming back to bite us, and we want to change the composition of the atmosphere. You see, the earth is not a guinea pig. It's not a lab rat that we can keep experimenting on. And honestly, there is no need to dim the sun's light. Just think about what happened a few months back. You know, during the lockdown, we realized that our planet has the magical ability to heal itself. 1 month of lockdown and the air was cleaner. Water was flowing once again in clogged rivers. The birds were back. The animals were back. There were less pollutants. If one lockdown could transform our surroundings, imagine what a lifetime of conscious choices can do. I know we have big goals and very less time, and we cannot let our planet's temperature increase any further. And this is exactly where we can turn to science for real solutions. We must use science to make the transition to greener fuel smoother and to decrease pressure on agricultural land. We must use science to find alternatives to livestock farming. Tampering with the atmosphere all over again is not an option. Dimming the sun's rays sounds like a Frankenstein solution. It should be off the table, as scientists say it should be. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.
I think you can, yeah. Good. Now, you know, I'm not debating about the technology, that part you forget, but in itself, you know, look at the state of seriousness that we are talking about now. And what are the options if we don't go for drastic technologies? What exactly we can do? I'll just give you a small anecdote of mine. You know, 2014, I was in Brussels. I was advisor in the embassy, and then I got a call that I have been put as secretary in a Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. And later on, I would know that this ministry was created in India in 1983. You know, back with the energy crisis. And between 1983 and 2014, you know, the ministry was trying its best to bring in alternative energies in different forms. So I joined in April, and in June, of course, May, the new government came. Prime Minister Modi came for the first time as Prime Minister, and we had got a very young minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal. And I remember he would have 2 mobile phones, you know, to discuss and debate. And he was in a hurry, you know, how to do things, how to put this ministry into a new orbit. And at such time, you know, one day the Honorable Prime Minister called me and asked me, we want 100 gigawatt of solar. I'm telling you because I presume, are aspirants for civil service. And when I came and joined in renewable energy, I hardly knew anything of renewable energy. I had worked in petroleum sector. I had worked in transport for long, where I got the Prime Minister's award for administrative excellence. I had worked in agriculture. I had worked in education. But I had never worked in energy per se, not in the power sector. So for me, the sector was new. And when the Prime Minister talks to his secretary and says 100 gigawatt, what do you want? What do you do? I said, sir, it's easy. We can get it. And because I was partly a little nervous, perhaps, and partly I didn't know much about that. But I told that, look, we have 200,000 square kilometers of deserts in Rajasthan. We have 3 million hectares of wasteland. So all this can be flooded with solar. So 100 gigawatt is not a problem. I came back and talked to my batchmate. You know, if you join civil service, a very strong network group is your batch. So I talked to my predecessor, was my batchmate. I said, look, the Prime Minister had called and asked, and I said, oh, it's easy. And my batchmate told me, you were outside India, you've come back. But look, as a secretary, whatever you do or write, you should talk to your joint secretary. And so I called my joint secretary and they said, look, Prime Minister told that 100 gigawatt. I said, very easy. Is it okay? He said, no, sir, it's not okay. 30 days before you came, we have written a letter to the Prime Minister's office that 100 gigawatt is not possible. We don't have money, we don't have demand, and we don't have the land. And I went to Mr. Piyush Goyal and told, sir, I made a small mistake. I must go back to the Honorable Prime Minister. He said, no, you find ways to do it. And we had a meeting of 70 officers for 3 hours. It was called Chintan. You debate how we can have 100 gigawatt. At the end, we had a small voting. 68 officers out of 69 told that this is not possible. And the only officer who supported was going to retire that month. So everybody laughed, saying that, look, because he's going to retire, he says 100 gigawatt is possible. But then 2014, and the way Mr. Piyush Goyal came up saying that let us have a global summit to get all investors into India. And we call it Renewable Energy Invest. So on 15th of February 2015, we invited some 100 industry people, 100 bankers, those who came and gave a green energy commitment that India could go solar, India could do 100 gigawatt of solar. And today I'm very happy to say that we have made 40% of the target the Honorable Prime Minister given much before the deadline. And prices have fallen, and it is much cheaper than the thermal electricity. It is a part of the global warming story. The whole renewable energy was an opportunity seized by us at the right time, at the right place. And today, the country has been able to give an assurance of 500 gigawatt. But at that point in 2015, when we started 100 gigawatt, it was, everybody said it is crazy, it's ambitious. But today we are in a position to talk about 500 gigawatt of is an opportunity of the global warming phenomenon that we're talking about, because it's a necessity that we go into alternative mode of energy generation. And in 2014, we used to mix thermal energy with solar energy so that the cost of solar energy comes down. We used to call it bundling. You take a part of solar energy and a major part of thermal energy. By mixing, you bring the selling price down. But today it's the other way around. Today, many major companies like NTPC, they mix solar energy with coal or thermal to bring down the price. Now look at how opportunity has been created. So I am an optimist, and I feel that global warming is going to create a lot of opportunities, and the cost will increasingly come down to meet the challenges. Another area I must tell you about now, I think if you go to the slides, I will explain to you in the first slide that, like the example I gave you of renewable energy, that can be applicable in many other sectors. And could you put the first slide, please? Yeah, this is very interesting, and this is the dashboard. It's like, if the global warming phenomenon is a car and you are the manager, then this is your dashboard. You are driving the car. And you look at, the responsibility of various sectors that contribute, the causes. So 73.2% global warming potential, whether it is CO2 or other incidental gas, they come from here. They come from here, and then within energy, the industry 24%, transport 16%, energy used in building 17.5%, and these are the things we can do. And if you look at the other circle, iron and steel 7.2%, chemicals and petrochemicals 3.6%, food and tobacco, paper and pulp, machineries, that comes to 5%. And then you also go into the transport sector, then aviation, shipping, road transport, and then you go to the energy used in buildings, And building is a very critical area because, the commercial buildings, the residential buildings, the cooling needs in the buildings, the heating requirements, the cooking requirements, the lighting requirements, the building, the house is a big source of, the source of global warming. When you light your house, when we light our house, when we use, when we do kitchen cooking in the kitchen, when we do heating or cooling, we are directly interacting with agents that cause global warming. And then there is this agriculture sector and the land use sector, and that is where the when Honorable Prime Minister was talking about restoring wasteland and organic use of lands, organic culture, and then the waste sector, which you are all familiar, and industry, of course. And I'm not going into livestock, and manure, agriculture, rice cultivation, crop burning, deforestation, landfills, wastewater, chemicals. But if you are writing for a UPSC, suppose there's an essay on global warming, and in our time, I think the first time we had got this, the preliminary thing, preliminary exam was introduced in '79, and I was the first batch. And we also had those essays. But if you get an essay on global warming, and this is going to be very relevant, and I think this you can borrow and use, because all these sectors play a very critical role. And then, of course, when we are talking about this, the regions, and from there comes actions and duties. You can derive this from this, this picture. What we can do in energy sector, what we can do in transport sector, and what we can do in buildings, what we can do in agriculture, what we can do in the crop burning or deforestation. So each sector, I mean, this is a potential area for somebody to do a PhD program, a PhD thesis. But whether you are looking at sector-wise or all sectors together, whether we are looking at the globe as a whole, here we are talking about the global emissions, and or you are talking about India as such, this is a very potential area from where you can derive actions and duties. And when we are talking about actions, it's very critical that we put, it is not merely perform, reform, and transform. Some areas we can just perform and set it right. Some areas will require reformation, we have to reform, and some areas will need transformation. For example, transportation, the EV sector, the storage sector in energy that is coming up, the new areas which are opening up, and those things have to be identified sector-wise. So if we do a plan, like India has done a national cooling action plan, and if we do a global warming action plan, a comprehensive one, a macro one, suppose, then we have to touch all these sectors, and you have to find out, where, what can be done, and who can do it. And that is where we need the climate justice. India has been championing that, look, if you want to really involve us, you put finance, you put technologies, and you talk of justice. Now, climate justice essentially says, who spoiled the earth? If you all agree the earth has been spoiled, the atmosphere has been spoiled, it has come from the industrial age. Today, if you look at India's per capita consumption of coal, which was the per capita consumption of coal in USA some 150 years back. So it is unjust now to say in India, look, you don't use coal, coal is bad. But in the other side, we are inside a house which is on fire. Do we debate that, who did it, or how do you set it right? In fact, 3-4 years back, the Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore was giving a lecture to all the secretaries in Delhi. In fact, Honorable Prime Minister those days used to arrange these lectures for secretaries. And the Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore told how they were doing research that once global warming comes, how the shipping is going to change in the Arctic Ocean. And it is going to change tremendously. It's going to cut short distance. It is going to cut down the cost of transportation. Now, who is going to capture it? Today, of course, China is leading. China is building ship which can break the ice and even cross the North Sea during winter. So the point is, the global warming has opportunities, but at the same time, dangers. Now, the danger is, one is called, could you go to the next slide, the methane burst? The next slide, please. Okay. Now, there is something called the methane hydrate to the. Okay, this of course, the different types of energy source and how we use cement, glass, other. The point is, even in renewable energy, there is a component. The waste. If you're talking about billion, we're talking gigawatts of solar. We have to be careful about the solar waste that we're going to generate, which has, glass, cement, steel, silver, a lot of other things. I'm not going to those issues, but this is again, another opportunity of coming up with zero recycling, using all waste for reproduction, the circular economy that most of you know about. Next one, please. Yeah, this is the methane burst. Inside the sea, inside the oceans, you find methane is in a hydrate form. And once the global temperature goes, the mean temperature goes up and the oceanic temperature goes up, the methane starts leaking. And methane is much more deadly than carbon dioxide. And but this is a tipping area, and we have to be very careful that the global mean temperature is kept below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Otherwise, if once methane burst takes place, there is no way, no technology to control it, and we are sure that the global warming and its consequences will come through. Next one, please. Sorry, I'm running a little late. I hope. Yeah, this is again, these are the hidden carbon under the seabed, and if the temperature goes up, they can as well come up. And think of 1,400 billion tons of carbon being added from the sea because the mean global sea temperature within going up, and this will be in addition to what we are actually adding to the atmosphere. Next one. This is 1,000 years. What is hidden, you see the stiff rise after the 1850s with the industrial revolution coming in. The temperature and the carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere has gone up. 1,000, 1,200, 1,400 AD, 1,600 AD, 1,800 AD. It is a pretty plateau, and then it suddenly jumped. Next. This is the Arctic Sea. I was telling, and there is something called a albedo effect. Albedo effect is how much sunlight falls on the ice and how much is reflected back. And more and more, you will find the ice, the white ice in the Arctic turning little grayish, blackish because of the deposition of very carbon content, and that particular ice is under attack from both sides. At the top, because it becomes little blackish, it absorbs more sunlight, so it melts faster. And from the bottom, the seawater is getting warmer, so it's melting. So the Arctic ice is under attack from the top as well as from the bottom. And when it melts, of course, that's the water volume and the sea level goes up. Next. This one I have already covered, so you can skip it and you can read it because we're running, time. We should leave time for questioning. The next one, this one again, human activities we have covered. We don't have to, albedo effect due to land use, energy from the sun. These are all graphs. You'll find out how carbon dioxide, methane, then halogenated gases, nitrous oxide, chlorofluorocarbons. They're the long-lived ones and the short-lived ones, the SLCPs. So the aerosols, these are going into the types of pollutants that we are talking about and what role they play in global warming. The next one. Yeah, this is again, the different atmospheric effects and the pollutants, how they interact at various levels of the atmosphere, the greenhouse gases, the ozone, and the land use, the black carbon on snow that I was talking about, direct and other effects. Go ahead. This is the, I was telling you when we were growing up in the early 90s, ozone depleting substances or ODS was a main concern. And you see after little before 1987, the Montreal Protocol is signed, that arrow mark you see, and how that has been the most successful, how the global greenhouse emissions saved due to Montreal Protocol. That whole blue area is the savings, and how the CFC or ODS emissions have come down. And this is the best example of an international agreement of all the countries coming together and solving the ozone problem. And I'm sure we are also going to solve the global warming issues, because I'm very optimistic about what we can do together. Go ahead. And this is the point I've been telling, the sign why I'm so optimistic. If you look at, between 71 to almost close to 87, the Montreal Protocol came, the number of multilateral environmental engagements, and the parties involved was very few, almost nil. And see how the jump has taken place. Now, most of the countries are involved in the process of finding solutions. And the COP21, where the Paris Agreement came through, how to tackle global warming issues, is a bright example of having reached a consensus. And 5 years, 6 years now, and we are sure we are going to take it to the next level. And with the engagements that we have and the technologies that are coming in, we should be able to tackle the problem. Next. Yes, from my side, it's over to, to sum up. I said that I actually talked about my student days when there was no issue. And when my student days in Carleton in Ottawa between 92 and 96, I did write a paper on global warming. And the issue was so much, the ozone issue was so timely that I joined for a PhD program to do India's chlorofluorocarbon management. And I found India had a lot of strength by involving the private sector in its management. And ozone, the Montreal Protocol became very successful because there was multilateral involvement at multilateral levels. And I'm very optimistic that will happen. And so far as global warming is concerned, we did discuss about the causes, actions and duties. And my last point is that, each one of us, if we can do something, and every year we can save at least 1 kilogram of, CO2 footprint we can avoid, that itself is a very big contribution. But at a more intellectual level, we have to look for new technologies, new finance, and a lot of innovation and a lot of startups to capture the opportunities that are coming up. And for the officers who join, Indian Administrative Service or managerial services, you have a lot more duties, because you have to not only deal with carbon pricing, but you have to deal with how to integrate global warming to all the projects and programs that we have. Thank you. I think now I'm open, and once again, I'm very thankful to Kirurimal and the association that you have made for aspirants to join civil service. It's a great thing, and this is one of the best opportunities that you can capture. And I wish you all the best for those who are joining. And you can collect my mobile number and my Gmail ID from Rasmi, and you are free to contact anytime. I'm open.
धन्यवाद सर। इससे पहले कि हम सेशन को आगे बढ़ाएं, मैं यहाँ पर मौजूद आप सभी लोगों से बताना चाहूंगा कि अगर आपकी टॉपिक से रिलेटेड से कोई क्वेरी सवाल तो चैट बॉक्स में लिख दीजिए, हम सर से उसको रिसॉल्व करवाने का प्रयत्न करेंगे। At first, sir, I would like to ask you a question. How can India use its resources efficiently to eradicate poverty and to reduce climate change impact for a better society?
See, in fact, as a country of 1.7 billion people, and if climate, global warming takes place, and the sea level rises, most of the coastal belts will be covered, will be submerged, and we have some 7,000 kilometers. Think of Mumbai, the slums getting submerged. So the human consequences are going to be severe. This is excluding the impact on agriculture, impact on health. You may get different types of corona things may come up. We don't know. It's an unknown area. And but the sheer physical impact of the sea rise going up is going to have tremendous impact. And if you look at corona, for example, the world invested $17 trillion, not only as to reboot the economy, but even if you look at the vaccine cost and all that, we spend tremendous amount of money. And we have to put equal importance to global warming and its consequences. It is, and that way, India's poverty is linked because to global warming, because our independence in food grain production. We don't know what is going the consequences of global warming on the agriculture. If monsoon fails, it takes 500 years for one oceanic current to complete one cycle, and leaving El Nino and other impacts, the sheer disturbance in the climatic disturbance, and then the number of impact of cyclones. In fact, all these adverse events affect the poor a lot more, like Corona did. Corona affected the poor a lot more than the rich.
Thank you, sir. Next question we have is from Lakshay. Lakshay asked, so what is your take on the view of common but differentiated responsibilities?
Oh, well, I'm a supporter of that. In fact, I touched that point, saying that, look, if you look at the water tank I gave, who put a lot of polluted water? Today, if you look at, India's responsibility for emission, it's, hardly 7%, and cumulatively it may be less than 2%. And so we haven't really been responsible for the mess that is there. But then I also say we are no more, we are living in a house on fire. And how long, we are going to debate. And the other point is, how do we convert it to an opportunity? We are very, we are very doubtful about the ozone protocol, the Montreal Protocol, because we thought it will cost us billions of dollars to be compliant with the Montreal Protocol. But I don't think that type of challenges came in. A lot of the private sector played a tremendous role in terms of getting new technologies and making new supplies. So as India successfully minimized the impact of replacing the ozone depleting substances with newer materials, in fact, its private sector played a very tremendous role. So this is the time, and that is what the Honorable Prime Minister is doing. In fact, when he created International Solar Alliance, I remember he's saying that, look, it is not so much the International Solar Alliance. Incidentally, it is no more 121 countries. There is so much of demand from other countries. The Constitution of Solar Alliance was amended to let all UN members to become members. So today, it has got 101 signed member countries, but any country, including Pakistan, everybody can be a member of Solar Alliance. Any UN member country can be a member. So he told that tomorrow, suppose there is a common agreement, collective agreement, that nobody will use coal, and it will be all solar. And that is why the Solar Alliance, was coming up to promote common R&D, bring all countries together. It was essentially a global, a measure to fight global warming by enabling countries to switch over from coal and carbon, linked energy systems to solar. So in one side, India has been a global leader in this, not only because of AISA, but because of several other measures that India has taken. India played a very good role in replacing the ODS. So we have to spot opportunities now.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Leeladhar. He asks, Unarguably, in the recent times, under our Honorable Prime Minister's initiative, we have made significant strides in the arena of renewable energy, especially solar energy. But we are highly dependent on cheap solar panels and photovoltaic cells of China. Giving hold of a strategic sector to China is a bit concerning, as we know. So my question is, what are we doing to make India Atmanirbhar in this sector?
In fact, Government of India have taken measures, to ramp up production of solar panels in India. If you look at, from 3 gigawatt, it has gone up to some 40 gigawatt. We have got an incentive-based generation system. And so what has to be done now, this has to be successfully implemented. And I'm very happy to say now major companies have opened up assembly lines. The latest scheme of incentive-based thing, which is linked to deployment, that is also coming through. In fact, at some point, China ensured better production of solar panels by ensuring them that there was guarantee for marketing. And I think we are doing it now. India is doing it now. And given India's demand for 500 gigawatt, and mostly it will be solar, or major part of it will be solar, that market we are creating, and incentives schemes are in place. But we do need a national mission of generating solar panels. We have to be very smart in technologies, because tomorrow, we invest a lot of money and something comes where solar panels are outdated. It is some other system from where you can get solar energy. So you have to be careful about that also.
Thank you so much, sir. I'd like to ask one last question from one of our participants. The question is, what are your views on carbon taxing? Is it viable in India? What are the challenges of enforcing carbon taxation in India?
Carbon taxing, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we have a lot of carbon tax. In fact, we always take pride that if you look at coal, again, we first put 50 rupees per ton, as coal says, which is another name of carbon, tax. And it has gone to 400 rupees now, per ton, within a span of some 4 or 5 years. Look at the massive tax we put on, on petroleum products. So we have a carbon tax system, but when we are talking about the other type of carbon tax, is a taxing the CO2 generation itself. And those things now we do indirectly, but if you produce 1 ton of CO2, you pay so much, a sort of tax. Those things we don't have still, but a time will come when we are talking about, when I was talking about that company and the whole lot of companies in that class, they are trying to create opportunity from carbon, trade. And this carbon will create opportunities because there is a limited quantity of carbon that the Earth can absorb, and that is that 400 gigatons. So the point is whether you put carbon tax in the form of coal cess, or taxation on petroleum products, or on generation of CO2, some form or the other, India has carbon taxing. But what is more important is carbon pricing. We price a commodity keeping the environmental content outside. And if we capture that, which suppose we are putting cement, we don't price the CO2 that the cement produces. And or suppose we are producing steel, we don't price the CO2 that the steel produces, or mitigation of the CO2. So that type of pricing is something the world has to come up with, and world has to accept if we want to successfully tackle this global warming problem in future.
Thank you, sir, for answering all the questions so patiently. Now, I'd like to request Ms. Rashmi, President of Kartavya, the Civil Services Society, to propose the official word of thanks. Over to you. Thank you for answering all the questions.
Thank you, Ayushi. I'm really sorry because of that. Are you saying something?
No, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Ayushi. So because of network issues at my end, I won't be able to on my camera. But on behalf of Kartavya, the Civil Services Society, our teacher convener, Dr. Vikram Singh Chaudhary, and the whole administration of Kirodimal College, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guest, Upendra Tripathy sir, for giving time from his busy schedule today. Obviously, contacting you and interacting with you personally is a great experience for me. And yes, hosting you for this annual event is a great pleasure for all of us. Also, my sincere thanks to the members of various
I think we have lost
I'm
Rashmi.
sorry, there are some network issues. I'm sorry. Yeah, there are some network issues. So finally, I would like to thank all of you who are present here for making the time to be with us today and helping us to make this event a grand success. So thank you. Thank you once again, sir, for joining